Welcome, folks, at Tuesday at 7. We are going to have our first time in Ohio, or in probably Ohio market for
decades. Yeah.
For decades.
Yes.
If you don't know Mary, you're going to want to stick with us. And if you know Mary, you're going to want to stick with us for the entire time. But one of the observations, this is my opinion. I think Mary is the Rick Rubin of Northeast Ohio, because what I keep hearing from folks is that, she's helped folks get started, finding value in their artwork, instructing folks as to how to price things. You've probably hung people's artwork. Many artists hung their artwork for the very first time, and that's quite a legacy.
I enjoy working with the emerging artists. I also enjoy helping any of the artists by creating venues to show their work. But I realized I had an epiphany years ago where I thought, and this is not self-deprecation, my art is not going to be what impacts the artists in this area. It's what I can do for them. It's the venues that I can approach, like Susan Snipes in Understory, where we're going to be visiting today, and just going to the different venues to bring collections of art to the community, for people who may never go to an art gallery or never go to the museum. They can see what artists are doing. They can see how it's being presented. They could see what things cost, because I do teach a class on professional practices and all that. Because when I was, I went to the Institute of Art, and they kind of brushed on that when I was there, but they really didn't do a whole lot, as far as preparing us for the real world. And I had a unique opportunity to work at Sylvia Ullman's, which was a craft gallery. So I learned the retail end of the art gallery business. But then I also saw how things are packed and how shipped and how things were made. And I had the experience of dealing with basically contemporary Cleveland art history, especially in the crafts movement from 1980 to the turn of the century, that I had my gallery and worked at Valley Arts Center, and then I went to Lakeland. So my whole life really has been about supporting the artists and helping them. And I used to say I do what I can. And Judy Brandon said to me, she goes, "Well, if you can, then you must."
Yeah.
And so this is my it sounds kind of corny, but it's like my station in life.
Yeah.
This is what I enjoy doing, and I know I can be a help, and that's what it's about.
That's
for me.
And we appreciate you guys joining us today. And what we always, if you've never joined at Tuesday at 7, we just stream once a week, usually on Tuesdays at 7 o'clock. Sometimes we break the rules. We're artists. We like to break rules. But we appreciate you joining us. But the magic of the show, and what really presses this knowledge or pushes this information out, is that share button. The very bottom left-hand side of your screen, there's an arrow. When you press that arrow, we know it, and we want to thank you. But we're going to put, if you share, we know it, we're going to put your name in a drawing, and next week we're going to draw the winner. And if your name is drawn, you get to borrow upon decades of really important information for artists. And Mary she's going to donate an hour consultation with whoever's name is drawn, and that's of great value. And as you stick with us, you'll realize how packed how valuable information Mary has to offer. And what we also want to encourage you to do is, we have Susan, and as we're going to bring Susan in, and we have Beth behind the camera as well, who's just keeping an eye on comments. Feel free to go ahead and ask questions. And even if you're not watching the live version, feel free to ask questions, because keep an eye on those as well. But so we're going to kind of walk on down. And the reason why we're starting outside of the gallery is we want to introduce people. If you haven't been down here to 78th Street Studios, there's galleries, there's the third Friday, the pop-up where everybody joins, there's shows, there's all kinds of great stuff going on.
There's pop-up tabletop shows in the smart space upstairs, in the space that's outside of Understory. So third Friday it's like one-stop shopping. It's 4 floors of fun. And anytime people come to visit me and it's that weekend, I'm like, sorry, this is where we're going. This is, and there's so many people here, and so many different artists and what they're doing and the stories they're telling and the media that they're working in. And what was fun for me was to bring this show, my From Woman 18 in 2025. It's a show of abstract work, and there's a few people in this building that show abstract work, but late in this area, I don't really remember having a show of all abstract work. So when Susan gave me the opportunity to bring in a show, I kind of jumped at the chance to do that. And so I created like a trilogy of exhibitions. So the exhibition here is abstract. The one at BK Smith in Painesville, that is figurative show. And then at Bay Arts in Bay Village, excuse me, I just opened like an Inspired by Nature show there that's over in their Sally Otto Gallery that's on the complex of Bay Arts. So this is fun for me to share, really kind of an in-depth look at the one of the shows in the trilogy, and I'm just really grateful for you that you think it's important enough to come talk to me, and I'm grateful to Susan at Understory because it was just a casual conversation. I said, "Hey, do you ever let curators come in and bring in a show?" And I pitched the idea of the woman show, and she really liked it. And we've already decided we're doing it next. We're doing it next year.
Yeah,
so
I absolutely love it, and the importance. And we were talking about maybe meeting elsewhere, but I'm like, if we could get, here and talk about why things are positioned where they're at, and as a curator, those are things that you attend to. Maybe some gallerists are like, yeah, we know what works and what doesn't. But those are things that we want to explore today, and we encourage you guys to jump in as well. Again, press that share button, and we'll walk through it. But as we come down this hall, you said that you went to Cleveland Institute of Art, right?
Yes.
So what was your area of study?
Well, I was a textile design major and a printmaking weaving minor, and then I also took clay. So and I feel that education is what helped me become the good curator that I am, because I understand the technique. I understand what's involved, but I can also bust artists when they're pulling my leg or giving me a story like, oh, I call them up and it's just like, so how's the work coming? He goes, oh, I'm working on it right now. And I'm like, so this is clay work, which means you have to let it dry, fire it, glaze it, let it dry, pack it up, and you think you're going to get it to me in a week? Dead silence. And so I'm honest, I'm straightforward, I'll be frank, you be Shirley, but it's just like, don't pull my leg, just be honest with me. But that's I'm kind of blessed that I've had all these opportunities that has helped me, maneuver from being a student at the Art Institute. And if I hadn't met Benita Cullinan, who was my textile instructor, she's actually featured in the show at Bay Arts. She taught me about injecting humor in my work, and if she hadn't shown me how to silkscreen print, I wouldn't have been doing art shows. I wouldn't have met a potter who took me to Sylvia's, and I worked for her for 17 years. So everything has been kind of organic, and because it seems to flow so easily, I just kind of been going with the flow, and I enjoy what I'm doing. I mean, it is cliche, if you love what you're doing, it's not work. And this is what I do. And it didn't really matter that my position was eliminated last year. It's just like, okay, I just have to take my show on the road. So now I'm calling myself a nomadic curator. Have show, will travel. And that's what I'm doing. So.
Well, what does a curator do anyways? Dumb it down for folks that might say,
a curator picks the artists that they want to be featured in the exhibition. They pick the pieces themselves. I'm a little more unique as a curator because I'm a control freak Virgo, and so I like to design the installation also. And then I've worked with other curators that have brought work in. They're like, no, you can, do it however you want. So to me, the designing of the actual exhibition is an art in itself. And when you talked about why things are next to each other, I can show you instrumentally when we're inside, but basically I'm creating a visual storyline of the show. And every piece, kind of influences the piece next to it. And sometimes it's visual threads. It could be color. It could be a theme. And I've learned that once I show friends how I do it, and you look at the flow, it'd be like, okay, look at this, see the visuals here, and it curves around and goes like this, and they're like, oh. And so then they come back to me later and they say, oh my gosh, I get it now. And they look at they go to other exhibitions and they don't get that feeling.
The same feeling.
Yeah, for me, it's all about the flow.
Well, stick with us because you're going to point that out as we enter, understory and walk through that ourselves. And I think it takes an artist to be able to call another artist out by going, I think you're pulling my leg,
Well, I think that what made a difference when I had my own gallery in Chagrin Falls too. That because we knew what was involved and the artists respected us. And when we went on a buying show in Seattle, we showed the artist, one artist, our business card, who was designed by a local artist. Actually, I went to high school with Jamie Feldman at Cleveland Heights High. And so after we left these people, the guy comes running after us. He goes, if your place is as cool as this business card, he said, yes, we want to deal with you. We want you to show our work. So like I said, I've been very lucky. But my studies at CIA taught me about looking for the fundamentals of design and, looking at artwork that speaks to me. That, you're looking at the arrangements of the lights and darks. You're looking at the line quality, the color, the impact and the emotion of the colors that you're using. So all of this works together. And so when I'm choosing work, I know that if it's the strongest work by that artist, I can make it work into the visual storyline. And then sometimes as everything gets assembled and comes in, there's there's intuitive sub themes that show up that I wasn't even paying attention. I didn't even realize, oh my gosh, there's a bunch of birds or aviary pieces, or there's landscape pieces, or there's figurative pieces.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go check that out. Hey, how you doing? We're going to go check that out. And again, for those who are joining, partway through, they might be just clicking now. We are meeting with Mary Urbas. She is an artist, a curator, collaborator, a connector. Those are words that the community has used to describe you. And
I actually have friends of mine. They introduced me as the art guru of Cleveland. I'll accept that mantle. I'll because, like I said, I've been doing this for so long, and I enjoy sharing bringing the work of my artists to the community. And most of the times, once I meet an artist and include him in the show, we become friends for life.
Yeah.
And yes, there's people that I always are attracted to and might show more than others, but I'm also trying to give artists who don't have a gallery representation, or they don't have a place that they can show their work on a regular basis. And so sometimes I do, repeat my artists. But now this year, what's different is because I didn't have the large space at Lakeland, mm-hmm. I broke the shows into 3 parts, and I had one that was specifically figurative work. Like I said, at BK Smith, the works we're going to see here are abstract, and then the ones at Bay Arts are nature inspired. But what was cool about what happened, the evolution of this show, is that I realized as the work came in, this is a fiber show. Yeah. And I'm a textile artist, and I was just intuitively kind of reaching for something different, the first person out here is Libby Cheney, and she does the fabric collage, and that's a little different approach than obviously using paint or using clay and all that. So, and there's a few other artists in there too that we'll discuss as we walk through.
Yeah. We want to do a quick call out to Andy Denny because we came down to the show, and that's where we first had the opportunity to meet. And thank you, Andy. He's a really engaged member of our community.
Yep.
Does great ceramics. We collaborated on some work here recently. But let's do a quick pan around, because we're down here at 78th Street Studios, and while we're just outside of Understory, you guys are going to recognize this place. And if you don't, you just kind of get a little bit of a feel of what 78th Street Studios offers. Feels like a giant gallery, certainly.
It is.
Right? But then you've got all these, their studios as well. So the artists are creating and hanging the work inside their space. And I know that if you've been down here on Third Fridays, you're like, this is filled with, artists and craftsmen and
it's fun. It's a fun vibe.
Yeah.
And it is also, it's great people watching. Mm-hmm. And for me, as a little bit older artist, it's nice to see younger people coming and attending, and some of the younger artists that are set up in the studios here. So it's become a vital viable art scene. And kudos to Dan Bush and the 78th Street Studios, because for those of you guys may not know this, is that this building was the think tank for the American Greetings. So you think about if these walls could talk, man, God, what they would say.
And the network, probably just the creative feel, the creative vibe of being surrounded by other artists is something you can't put it's an unknown factor, but something that certainly I think is important in an artist's journey. Let's step up closer to this piece right here. Is this part of the show? Or
yes. Yes.
Yeah. So take us here and give us.
Well, this is an artist named Libby Cheney. Mm-hmm. She's I actually met her at the Screw Factory years ago, and she was kind of like dividing her time from Mill Valley, California, mm-hmm. and then she came back. We became friends. She's been in some of my textile shows before, but I like the fact that she's doing the larger scale pieces. I like the fabric collage that she's doing, and the fact that it's not, that there's all kinds of fun textures, and colors. And it was great because we were nervous about if this would get washed up on the white walls inside. But then, I met her here the third Friday of January, and she saw the dark wall. She was like, "Oh my God, this is perfect." So, and then then there's another smaller piece over here also, which kind of fits. It's a narrow kind of column piece. So like I said, she does the fabric collage and the stitching, and it's fun because it's an organic shape. It's not a traditional presentation, because the other thing I like to do is show the viewers the different ways to present art now, because there's so many, you've got the museum wrap canvas, but then you've got artists that'll put things up with the bull clips. You'll have people doing things with magnets. So there's all different kinds of presentations. And again, and presentation matters. That's what was ingrained in me as a student at the Art Institute, is that you don't take a piece to level, CDE. We take it to STU and keep working on it to resolve it. And so, like I said, I'm drawn to, pun intended, I'm drawn to artists that kind of have that vibe to their work and have the story behind what they're doing. And especially this with, celebrating Women's History Month, these are all artists that, have a story to tell. And if you guys can come on third Friday, some of the artists will be here. We have the artist statements that are in a binder as you come in the front door. So the hope is you might strike up a fun conversation with someone you've never met. So.
Yeah. And if you share this video and your name is drawn next week, you can be a winner of 1 hour of really valuable time consultation with.
You can do a Vulcan mind meld on my brain. Sorry, that's a little Star Trek joke. So.
Yeah, and you know what I mean? I think most people will get that, but the things like artist statement, the hanging, the finding value, there's going to be artists that are going to say, hey, we've been doing it for a couple of decades. And if that's you, this is going to be of great value. If you're an artist and you're just crossing the starting line and you're like, Mary, where do I start?
Yeah. Well, ironically, I do teach classes. I do like a 3-hour workshop on presenting and promoting your art. And I was just talking with Susan that we'll be offering it. We're trying to figure out a day and a time to offer it here at Understory. I'm going to be doing an artist statement workshop at the Valley Arts Center in June, because an artist statement that's a whole nother, category, a whole other thing that artists need to have something written that they write that speaks for them when they're not there, or when the gallerist can't talk to someone and all that. And there's all different kinds of responses to artist statements. Sometimes they're funny, sarcastic, sometimes they're flip, but it's just for me, when I would get work in from an artist for a show, I would read their artist statement, and that way when I did a gallery tour, then I knew something about them. Because I find that if you share like an anecdotal story, people are going to remember, instead of talking about the effect of Fauvism on 20th century pop art in Australia. Sorry, that's just me.
Oh yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. So,
yeah.
But, and I think, and it's important for the artist to learn some of these skills, because, I don't, yes, I can be hired as a consultant, but I'd like to give the artists the tools to do it so that they can figure it out themselves.
Yeah.
And
That's incredibly generous. And the reason why I was like, you know what, I think that, I think you're,
really dim.
oh, I see.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that prompt. That's the reason why I'm like, yeah, she's the Rick Rubin of Northeast Ohio for sure. And things, I think a lot of folks, they forget that where it's, that getting washed out on a lighter wall, and sometimes it's the wall that determines where the piece goes.
yes,
too,
yeah.
right?
And this was just happenstance that it was dark gray. I think Susan had just repainted it, so it was perfect. So
So as we're kind of walking in, we're at Understory,
okay.
which is a gallery right here at 78th Street Studios. And Susan, is this your space?
Yes, it is. I opened Understory about a year ago.
Okay.
Yes, her anniversary is on Friday.
Okay,
Her 1 year
congratulations.
anniversary.
Thank you. Yes. I've been an artist in the area, and I actually was not setting out to open a gallery, but I was looking to create a space with some other artists. I love the 78th Street Studios community, and they showed me the space, and they're like, "What do you think?" And I was like, "Well, it's kind of big, but let me think about it."
Yeah.
And the more I thought about it, the more ideas I had. And kind of like what Mary was saying, I'm really interested in building community. And one of the best ways to do that is to have this kind of gallery space. As an artist, I understand a lot about what other artists are looking for, and I wanted to make it accessible. So we do things a little bit different than other galleries. So sometimes, for example, we have calls for entry, no fee to apply.
Yeah.
And we have very great commissions for the artists so they can get a lot when their work sells. We want a lot of that to go to the artists. And it's collaborative. Since I'm the owner, I get to call the shots, and I get to work with
Mary. Superheroes.
So it's been a really fun year. I've learned a lot from people like Mary, and really glad to be here.
If you come in on third Fridays, or you're here for another time during the month, when you come in the doors, it says right under the sign it says your art.
Your art sucks.
Your art sucks. So when you come through those doors, when you come through those doors, this is the ramp down.
Yes.
And so if you were to look, I mean, this was, as you said, it was the American Greetings building, and but this is ramp down, and there's a bunch of floors above us. But if you're coming to check out the show in Understory, you want to take that ramp down. And maybe very often when I'm coming here, I either go to the top and work my way down, or I come down and work my way up.
Yeah.
And so
you kind of have a plan, because I'm sure everyone who's watching is going to laugh when I say this. I mean, I talk a lot, I visit a lot, so I sometimes have to be here by 5:30 because it's too frustrating if I don't get a chance to talk to everybody. Some weeks I don't even get up to the third floor to see Chris Richards or Charmaine or some of the people that are up there. So, But like I said, I know so many of the people in the building, and actually some of the women who have studios here are in the directory that we created, and that's the poster over there.
Oh yeah, let's get to. But before we go there, Understory is a Facebook page. Where might folks find out where kind of what's upcoming and what's coming next?
Several places. I kind of like to see whatever people like. Understory does have a Facebook page. If you look for Understory, I'm sure you'll find it. Also an Instagram and a website, which is understory.art.
Story.art. If whoever puts that in the comment section,
sure.
If anybody who puts that, the first person who puts it in there, or the second person, frankly, will make sure that your name goes in that drawing as well. So we like engagement here virtually as well.
There you go.
But yeah, thanks for coming down on Tuesday and open up your space and allowing us to walk on through. But Mary, take us because it's not just one show that you're working on at any one time. You're like spinning plates at all times, right?
Yeah. Well, what I did is I followed a tradition I started 17 years ago of creating a curating show called From Woman, and it's art created by women, of women, and about women. And so this year, like I said, I did 3. And so we've got Understory here, Lake Erie College, and then this is the card for Bay Arts. But what I did is, with the help of Susan, because she and her husband are IT geniuses, we created a directory. And if you go to the
The QR code?
The QR code. It will take you to the website that Susan created. And what we did is we put it out there so that galleries and artists could put their information out there. And in the directory, it's divided up by venue. You can find out their information, their contact, their address, phone number, website. Then we also listed events that they were having. So whether they're receptions or studio visits or gallery talks, all of these different things are on there. And when you go to that, even because it's only March 18th, there is a button that you can still promote your events, women's events, and you can list it in the directory. And we were asking for a small donation to help us, kind of do the costs and print up some of the posters. But what we're really trying to do is create some seed money so that we can advertise and do it bigger next year. Because, like I said, I'm already working with Susan, and I have three other venues besides this one already set up for next year. So it's like the women's show are things that it's something I've been doing every year in February and March for the past 18 years. I can't imagine doing something else. And then every other year in September, October, I do my skull show, and I've become known as the Skull Lady. So those are my two big shows that are going on this year.
I'm going to ask this quick question. Why skulls? Why skulls? Why are you the Skull Lady?
Well, I went to Mexico on a trip with my brother, and I just, it's the whole thing about how the Mexican culture treats death. It's not taboo, it's celebrated. And they have their, Dia de los Muertos, event. And so when I first started doing the skull show, I started it as a pop culture show. When, like I said, it started in 2009 with 18 artists. And I was trying to attract the student body, pun intended, of Lakeland, because they weren't coming. Yeah. And I thought, okay, in 2009, that's when the skateboard culture was really going out there. The tattoo culture was exploding. You could buy a baby onesie with a skull on it. I thought, I'm going to indulge myself and do something fun and different. And now, all these years later, I was able to do one last year at the University of Akron. Thank you, Arnie Tunstall. But the big extravaganza is going to be in October at Tri-C East at Gallery East. Carol Romano, who's the great gallery director there, said I can come in and do the skull show there. So that's going to be fun. It's going to be Thursday, October 30th is going to be the costume party reception. And it's always fun because, artists when they come in costume, it's always a blast. And then I do something else called the Boneyard Market where artists bring in, a skull, things that are maybe a little less costly, whatever. But basically it's about a celebration of life and death, and it's the whole thing from Coco, which no one told me I was going to cry at the end of it. It's the whole thing. It's all about remember my name, and if you speak that person's name, they will never be forgotten. And that is kind of what is some of the artists. The vibes from their pieces are like that, but the skull show, it's also twisted and weird and dark and borderline gross sometimes, because I like to show all the different, all the different possibilities, all the different techniques, all the different takes on a show about death without saying this is a show about death and how you handle it. So
now we're entering not a show about death, but a women's show. And I know that's been going on because Women 18 is because this is the
18th year. Yes.
Of curating a show, that features women artists. Yes. What's the rationale behind that?
Well, quite honestly, like when I started this, I think this was probably maybe 2008. I wanted to do something to celebrate women. I was the gallery director at Lakeland Community College, so I was a woman gallery director, and basically I wanted to showcase the work of women artists, because women artists, especially older women artists, we are kind of ignored and made to feel invisible, and so I kind of honor the fact that I deal with maybe some artists that are a little bit more established and maybe mature in their art practice and what they're, as far as the art that they're producing. But I'm always looking for, to showcase artwork from from all different age groups and all different, techniques and all that. So,
Yeah.
so like I said, this started organically, and this is just what I do in February and March, is come here and do the women's show. And like I said, this show is all, abstract art. And I thought it was interesting because there's usually, I never really had enough room in the gallery space to have a whole section of the abstract. So this is kind of a treat and a challenge for me because of the subject matter, but also because of the space. Because when you're used to designing a show in the same space for 19 years, and suddenly every place I'm going is a new space, but I'm really grateful for people that help me install the shows. John Sargent, who's a painter in this area, and he's been an active community person. He's on the boards of Arts Archives and Valley Arts Center. He helps me install a lot of my shows. Although for this show, thank goodness, Susan and some of her studio mates, helped install the show. And the one guy that was here, I think he had worked as an art handler before. So I was really grateful that they would, we kind of designed the layout, but then they actually installed. And it always looks better, when I leave after designing an installation, everything's on the ground or leaning, and it's so cool to come in and see it hanging and seeing the labels up. So, yeah.
Well, we appreciate you guys joining us today. Again, in the very bottom left-hand side of your screen, there's an arrow. When you hit that share button, we'll know it, and your name will be put in a drawing. And if your name is drawn next week, you have the opportunity for an hour of consultation with Mary. And what we also want to do is, it's not just about a chance to win something of great value, but it's a chance to have the women here not remain invisible, right? And we want that story to get out to folks too. And your shares are of great value to not only us, not only to the community, but to the women artists that are shown here as well. I remember when I came in here, I walked in and I kind of just moved over to the right-hand side, and I was looking around. I'm like, something doesn't. I think that I'm in the wrong place. And I had asked Mary, and she said, well, yeah, it's the flow goes this way. And I noticed that right off. And so kind of walk us through here as we walk through this show.
Well, first of all, I want to applaud you on your intuition that you sensed that. But like I said, 19 years of working in the same space, when you would come into my old space at Lakeland, that first big open area was to the left. So walking in here, it made sense to go clockwise and to start on the left and kind of create the visual storyline as we went from artist to artist. And I tried to, I wanted like different approaches, different media. And, I chose Diana Bigel's work, because, I felt that visually it would be a little break from all the surface, and all the colors and all the patterns. Yeah. And I've known her for quite a few years. She's an Institute of Art graduate, and this is new work for her. So she was very excited to have the pieces, on display. And the cool thing in that, 'cause these are like little things that I point out, the things that were kind of fun is that we were able to locate some pedestals in the building. Thank you, Bill. And what's cool is you step back and you've got that little kick plate on the bottom. It kind of echoes the little lift on the necks. So it's the the organization of the pedestals. It's the work on the pedestals. It's the, like I said, it takes me a long time to design a show because I move things back and forth. And I used to make a joke at Lakeland, the police would be watching me and they'd thinking, why does she keep taking that same piece, moving it back and forth? But I do, I call it feeling the love. Yeah. If I don't feel the love in an organization of a wall, then I keep moving and tweaking. And actually, Susan and I felt, we think this is, oh God, I hate to say this I love everybody in the show. There's 11 artists in this show. Or is it 8? 9. Oh, sorry. There's 9 artists in the show, but I think this wall works well just because, the visual clues, as you asked me how I design the layout, is if you've got the surfaces of the clay and you have the incised, markings. And then as you kind of go into the organic painted canvas of Grace Sumanen, who teaches at the B.K. Smith Gallery in Painesville, if you look at the piece on the end with the bars kind of echo the bars here. So, and I didn't even see that relationship until the work came in. So that's why when we'll put this here and we'll put this here. And when I work with things on pedestals, I think of this as a stage set. So that's why I like to have different heights and sizes of the pedestals up and down, so you can see pieces, a certain way up or down. And there's also, for the Disabilities Act, you really need to have, you don't want things hanging too high. And there's like an industry standard for hanging artwork where the middle of the artwork should be like 58, 59 inches, and that's right here. My eye level is, so when I hang a piece, I put the center at my eye level, and then it usually works.
Yeah, we want to invite Beth and the community to kind of see this.
Yes.
Because as you were stating, right, I mean, I would imagine that would it be accurate to say that the best place to view this is from this space right here?
Probably right in front. Yeah.
Right in front?
Yeah.
And and you had talked about like the kick plate, the size. I mean, like those are all things that I wouldn't know, and I know that I enjoy them. I just don't know why, and it's because you're attending to those details.
Right. Well, and it is that they say the devil's in the details, and that's just those are the things I think about. And I think about the cast shadows, and as we walk around, and some of the juicy cast shadows from the pieces are just really cool. And like I started to say, Diana, she has a studio over at Screw Factory also, so which is another complex with floors of artists, and they have events like 2 or 3 times a year. So, but like I said, I just loved her forms and how simple they are. And they almost kind of reminded me of woodcuts. And since I was a printmaker, I almost feel like inking those up and rolling them on something to transfer the design. And I chose her work as a visual break, because as we walk around, there's so much going on, so much visual information, just the vibration that's coming off the work itself, which is why I always suggest to people to come see the work in person, because the artwork will emulate an energy. And sometimes you can smell you smell linseed oil. And I think of the studio days of painting in oils at the Art Institute, so it's like these memory triggers when they smell certain media and all that. But
it's like grandma's cookies, the art studio. And as you were talking before, I don't know whether folks are watching, but there's the cast shadows.
Yes.
The multiple, the darkers, the lighters, the light and the...
And sometimes the way the different lights hit it, that's how you get like different values of the shadows. Yeah. Like these are, I call it juicy, just because it's such a great effect. And that, to me, that's the gift from the universe, is when we get some really cool, shadows. And what I liked about, Grace's work, it's just she's got these great fabrics, and in academic painting, especially when you're starting to do still lifes and fabric. So I think in one way, I love the fact that she's painting on the fabric itself, and then she's got the folds of the fabric, which changes the color, changes the value, and it just makes for a great surface, And
there's a QR code on all works. Is that so that folks can click in? And when they check out the QR code, is it work specific? Is it artist specific? What do they see when they? And I would imagine, Susan, that's as you're digging in, going, we want the story to be readily available for somebody to step up, scan, see the story.
Those QR codes, each of those, there's one QR code per artist. And so when someone scans those, they go to a page that's dedicated to that artist, their artist statement, their bio, so they can learn a little bit more about that artist. I've noticed a lot of people have those on their phone so they can keep that open and then come back to it if they want to refer to it.
Yeah.
So
nice.
I think it really helps focus on the piece, and if someone wants more information, they can dig into it. So leaves the focus on the piece.
Yeah, and as I'm taking a look at this work, I see a red dot here.
Red
that
dots
must mean
are
something,
good,
right? It's a red dot, right? He's a soul.
Yep.
And
there's a red dot on one of Diana's pieces too.
Yeah, well, congratulations for for the artists, but also for the people who have the work, because there's a whole. I would love to really kind of dig into the psychology of stepping into a gallery and the whole idea. Is the piece choosing us, or are we choosing the piece, right? I mean, we walk in and a piece that whispers to us or sometimes yells at us, like we know it. We just keep coming back to it. And there's a couple pieces here that, as I was coming in and work here, that I was drawn to certain pieces. And I can't necessarily tell you why. I just know that I'm drawn to it.
Yeah, well, like I said, I try and bring a collection of different medias and different approaches, and hopefully they're engaged. I guess I feel if it's engaging to me, that you will find that it's engaging to you. And that, again, going back to the whole designing of the exhibition, every piece is next to each other within the grouping by artists, but then each artist is in a special order also, just to kind of give you a timeline. Sometimes it's a change in the colors, sometimes it's the texture, but again, it's so that you get that whole experience of the flow of the show.
Yeah. And seeing the vertical lines on the ceramic pieces and the vertical lines in this work too. Yeah. Now that you mention it, I see it and I feel it too. So we're going to the third artist, right?
Yep. This is Sandy Schellenberger. She's an artist from Conneaut, and she's been in a bunch of my fiber shows and women's shows. What she does fold and dye, but she also does some shibori techniques, so she's very into keeping some of the lost arts alive. Okay, I'm going to, a very, very, God, I hope she doesn't kill me, very simplified way of describing some of the technique is that you wrap the fabric around a tube and then you wrap it again and then you dye it and you dye over it. And so sometimes you can get, some of these like, oh God, some of these details are just so cool.
And the layering is so.
And this part, I believe that this has been bleached away. So it was black fabric bleached away to this color. And what's crazy is, manufacturers, they overdye all kinds of stuff to black. So you're never quite sure what you're going to get when you bleach it away to get that. Excuse me. And then she'll go back in and she'll overdye with other colors to bring another color into the palette.
Now, it feels as though that these pieces are intentionally placed against this wall. Am I interpreting that correctly? And maybe I'm kind of just learning by hearing.
Well, you know what? It just kind of worked out that way. I mean, like I said, I don't. Sorry. When the work comes in, sometimes artists will say, well, let me install the work. Where's it going to go? And I'm like, I don't know. I have the work come in, and the work talks to amongst themselves, and then they tell me how to place them. But it just worked out that the groupings were able to be included in the wall in a certain design, and how they complement each other. So it just worked out perfect that I picked 3 of them, and it's this great medium gray, and it's a beautiful color, and you walk in the door and it's like boom.
Yeah.
And like I said, this is like an accidental textile show. I didn't even
see it from out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Beth, come on in here. Bring folks here, because when I came to the show, I stood in front of this piece for quite some time, and the whole process here, like, this is amazing.
The visual effects she's able to get, and she calls these the Shifting Sand series, and she's been on, safari in Africa. She travels, so this is like probably inspired by one of her recent trips. But like I said, her fabrics are so unusual, and she teaches classes at Praxis and other places in shibori, in tie-dye, and like I said, she creates some incredible surfaces, and as a textile designer myself, I appreciate it. And for me, the irony is that in school, whenever I tried to tie-dye, it came out flat, and so there's an inherent respect for someone that can do this kind of tie-dye. My niece, the one who does all my Aloha shirts, she does incredible tie-dye too, and my forte was screen printing and dyeing things solid colors. And so I didn't want the striations, and like I said, I try and do it. I'd be like, that just wasn't in my wheelhouse, I guess. So.
And as a textile design major for the Cleveland Institute of Art,
I know what's involved, and I know that a lot. Especially with some of the women's techniques, the lost arts. I want to try and keep them alive, because in this, as everyone knows, I'm very, I guess the term is now, I'm very analog.
Yeah.
I'm not high tech. I don't use a lot of machines, and I appreciate the hand arts that when you're looking at something, that it's not mass produced. That there was, blood, sweat, and tears from that artist who was creating, the fabric to then put it into another, to put it together as a collage patchwork and then quilt it. So all the different, techniques and all the inspirations. And then it's also how it's installed. It's got a very simple installation where it's just kind of sitting against the wall, and it's got like a quiet zen to it. And I'm just really happy that these walls were perfect size and in a perfect place. So like I said, sometimes it's very organic, the process.
You want to take us to this third piece, and for this artist, I should say. And is there something about odd numbers of work? I'm assuming like 5 and 3s.
Yeah,
is there something to that?
There is. Yeah, there's a design sense. There might be a name for it. Sorry, I don't remember. But there's more interest when there's 1, 3, 5 odd numbers. Part of it's the whole thing that gosh, there's so many rules, and so many of us want to know the rules so we can break them.
So you can break them. Yeah.
So you talk about, you're not supposed to put something in the center. You're not supposed to put a line in the center, because then is it like a bookmark or something even on both sides? So, it's just a design sense, but I just find doing the odd numbers works for me and works with, when I design these shows. But then, as we're coming up to this next artist with Deborah Silver, she gave me 4 pieces, and we flanked 2 of her pieces on each of the ends. So, it's like basically everything I just said doesn't really matter, because it changes from wall to wall.
It changes from wall to wall.
Yeah,
and
from artist to artist.
It's sometimes it's like jazz. You just,
yes, that's
curating by ear.
Yes, yes.
Just like
yes.
We'll find out
and some
what
of the
have.
Tonalities are brighter and go forward and all that, and I love that.
Yeah.
And so this work here, this is Deborah Silver, and she's a Cleveland Institute of Art graduate also, and she does these pieces with where she weaves these, and this is Bedford cord is a certain kind of stitch, a certain kind of weave. So so you get the coloration, you get the weave structure, which makes it 3-dimensional bas relief, but then how she dyed the warp, which is the vertical part of the weaving, and how she put the weft in there with the colors, so she could get these like subtle, gradations in there. And I just, like I said, being a weaver, I can appreciate this lost art. And she's got a huge floor loom in her studio. She lives in Cleveland Heights.
If one were to step back, if you were in person, you would see that you had 2 pieces from this artist and then 2 pieces on the other side. There's a reason why you use that bookmark.
Yeah, part of it is to kind of keep the collection together, and sometimes I just don't want to do, like, okay, here's a grouping of this artist, here's a grouping of this artist. I want them to intermingle, and it's also a way to show potential collectors how to mix artwork together in their home. So, the hope is if we sell, the artist wants to. Yes, we make the work and we pretend that we don't want, that's an end in itself, but we want the connecting of the dots where someone appreciates the work, wants to take it home and wants to live with it. But sometimes people are like, well, I don't, it doesn't match my couch or I don't know what to collect. It's like, so I tell people, you collect what you like, but by showing that you can mix different media with different things in different colors, it just makes it for, something a little bit more intimate, a little bit more personal. It's because it's not corporate, it's not cold, it's not sterile. And I'm all about the hands-on techniques too. Like I said, the lost arts.
So Marty. Yeah,
this is Marty Higgins. And she's a Cleveland artist also, and I've been following her work, and it was. I'm glad that I was able to bring her in this year. And then we used the second image over there as kind of like the branding for the show here at Understory, and it was fun because, like I said, I've been watching her work, but see, there's been like a 3-year waiting list to get into my show, and so so some women have been very patient. waiting for their turn. So I was very happy when I was able to feature her work. And then at first she said, well, I'll give you some small pieces, so that you can fit on the wall. I'm like, no, I want some of your big stuff. I want for me, it's the visual statement of seeing, these pieces and just just how she treats the collage and the paint and the different surfaces and all that. And, and it's, again, I hate to keep using the word juicy or yummy, but it's they're very tactile. I'm a very tactile kind of person. I mean, even though I'm a surface designer, I appreciate, people who work in abstract because it's non-representational. The abstract artists are creating a vocabulary and symbolism with their marks and their shapes, and that whole thing about they're creating the vocabulary to make the words to tell a story, but especially with abstract art, that maybe the story is not as obvious, and sometimes it doesn't need to be because you can stand in front of an abstract work and absorb and come to your own conclusions because there's nothing, although with some of the pieces there might be words or text and all that, but sometimes you're not given anything but a visual clue, and you kind of you have your own story in your head of what the artist is saying, what they're doing.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about folks, because as a curator and Susan as a gallerist, right, you have folks coming here and essentially what we're hoping is that there's red dots.
Yes.
Right, red dots, because ultimately we want to show the work, but we want this work to find its home. And a lot of folks are like, where do I start? Do you have any, where do people start? Because I think a lot of folks are like, I know what I like, I've got blank walls, I don't have, maybe I have $1,000 budget per year to buy some stuff for my house. Where do they start? What would your...
Well, like I just said a minute ago, it's just, I believe, this is just my opinion, that they have to, the work has to speak to them. Yeah. And you purchase it because every time you see the work of art, it's going to bring back some kind of memory and whatever. And, when I travel, I try and buy a piece of artwork, even if it's a small piece or whatever, because every time I look at it, I think of the circumstances. Oh, I got this, I was on this trip, or I did this, or whatever. But, like I said, it's, I don't know, maybe it's counterproductive for me to say this, but, as in the beginning, I don't know that you should be worrying about, am I going to be able to sell this as a profit? Is this artist going to increase in value? For me, as a buyer, you're creating a relationship with the artist, and you're saying to them, I like this work so much that I'm going to bring it in my house, and I'm going to look at it every day. And I look in the collection of my house, and most artists and most curators, we collect art, and there's some pieces, every time I look at them, they make me smile. I'm like, and I remember the circumstances. I'm like, I'm so glad that I bought that piece because it makes me happy, it makes me smile. And in this climate, figuratively and actually, people, I think, need the release of the art for the artist to create the work and for people to purchase it and find a joy in what they're looking at, or again, it evokes a memory or a thought process or that whole.
Yeah. There's work that is, there's some three-dimensional work here. Do we continue this way, or do we pause and check out this?
We can zigzag here.
Let's zigzag a little bit.
We'll do serpentine. Sorry, that's the alluding to the in-laws, running serpentine. Sorry. Okay, this is an artist named Marty Moore, and I first met Marty years ago when I was the assistant director at the Valley Arts Center in Chagrin Falls. And so, but Marty is I think she's a nurse or a physical therapist. Sorry that I don't know which one, but I saw her this past summer, and I knew I was doing the abstract show, and I thought, you don't normally see abstract enamel on copper.
Yeah.
And so I invited her in the show. But what's to me, the most interesting thing and the most comments we've received is like the one that Beth is doing right now. It's actually enamel, but it also has punch needle fabric. So those are little loops of fabric. And the one down here on this shelf is the same thing. And so the fact that you're using, a soft, pliable texture, like thread, with the hard enamel, which is basically glass, powders that have been heated up to high temperature to create glass, and then how it fits in and anneals to the metal underneath. And she also does like landscape plates too. But I just saw her work, and I just said, I want to show something different. I want to show not only people art, the artists they've never seen before, but techniques that they've never seen before. And like I said, especially when a bunch of February artists were here for the event last month, everyone was like looking at this. They're like, oh my God, look at this! It's punch needle, it's fabric, it's such an interesting dichotomy of materials, and so it makes for a very compelling composition, something a little different.
Yeah.
So
and I could absolutely see this work, even being stacked by saying, I've got I'm going to buy a triptych of this work and stack it, and beautiful. And I didn't pause enough to realize, that we had that fabric that was.
Yeah. And the crazy thing about these pieces is that I keep wanting to like touch them. I'm not supposed to, but there's museum glass on some of these that is so clear you can't even see it. You can't even see it.
I did not even notice that. Did you notice that, Beth? The museum glass in for this?
Yeah, that's only because I have
because you had a camera.
Yeah. But a couple times when I was showing people, I was like, I could feel my hands going there. I'm thinking, no, there's glass there. There's, which is to form a barrier.
Yeah,
but
And to tell us as we kind of come around and take a look at this is some of Diana's work, right?
Yeah.
Which is the artist, is some of the smaller pieces.
Yeah. But it's it's the organic shapes. If you look at the bottle shape, and then you kind of look at the shape of the design here, and and how Diana incised the lines, and these are enameled, and some I think there's probably something that maybe was created to resist, so that I'm getting shadows here, so that you can get some of these harder edge lines. So and it's part of it's a very similar process. With clay, you start with powders, and you water and you heat them to get an effect. And this, you start with mineral and powders and glass, and you heat it to adhere to the copper. And so these are two-dimensional paintings, but it's not a traditional media. Yeah. It's not paint, it's not drawing, it's not collage.
Yeah. What we want to do is we're going to we're kind of rounding third. All right, go ahead. No, they kind of changed that, but we'll absolutely download. So for those folks that may or may not know, the piece or our live interview, right, is going to be up on Facebook for 30 days, and then we move it over. Actually, we don't even wait for 30 days, but we move it over to YouTube as well.
Oh, great.
So if anybody looks up and goes, I remember that interview, I need to look it up, it'll be over on YouTube after Facebook pulls it down. But we're kind of rounding third here, and if you were in person, you'd see that there's an obvious flow, and we've been talking about that. And there's a flow here at the end, too. And take us, to this, just the last third of the show.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's one. Actually, the last two artists, because we're finishing up here with the two pieces of Deborah Silver, and like I said, it's just the subtleties of the dyeing and using, I think, of the embroidery floss for the different colors, and then and it's kind of tight and harder edge because of the weaving structures, and then as you kind of come around the corner here, these are some smaller pieces from Susan Krause, and Susan Krause is an artist I met over in Chagrin Falls. She teaches out there. She's really well known for her collage multimedia pieces. And so I wanted to show some smaller pieces of hers, and then also show some of the larger works, in contrast, which are these pieces here. And what attracted me is when I went to visit her, it was so gray and so snowy and gray and white. And when I saw these and the frenetic color, and this of course is like one of my favorite colors, this orchid pink. So I was very drawn to this grouping of her work. And what's nice is, some of the pieces are on paper, some of the pieces are on canvas. So for me, what's exciting is how the paint, lays on the paper, what it does versus on the canvas. And so this is, framed a little bit, more traditional with the mat, but like with a piece like this, they're painting across over the edges with this museum wrap canvas. And I think museum wrap canvas is probably one of the best inventions since sliced bread. It really is, because as an artist who does contemporary work, you don't necessarily have to frame it. Yeah. And you don't have to have the weight of the frame and so
and the cost
and the cost. And a lot of times artists, someone will go to an art show, like a white tent art show, like Kane Park or Boston Mills or whatever, and they'll say, "Oh my God, I love the piece, but I don't want the frame." And sometimes the artist doesn't want to sell it without the frame, because sometimes it was made for that piece, and sometimes the artist really likes the frame. So this kind of solves a lot of problems, or and like I said, it's a more contemporary way to display it. It's not traditional where you have to have that brass bar light that shines on top of it.
And I love that the art wraps, yes. Right? That it's, the art continues, and even like this, this.
Yeah, a piece of collage, yeah.
The collage, I mean, it wraps around the corners, which...
But not every artist actually paints around the corners. Oh. Sometimes they will make a solid color kind of as an end. But what I like is, as you're going, and again, because I go from left to right, and that's how we read and all that in the West. But as I'm looking at the next piece and I see the edge and I can see it as I walk around, and I think that's kind of a nice effect too, because I kind of go like this and see, all the different sides and edges. And like I said, as a student at the Art Institute, we were taught that it's the presentation too. It's not just, you're not just, wrapping the canvas and framing it. It's how you present the piece. Yeah. And this work, I think the way it kind of hung out with, Annie Peters, which are these basket pieces, what was really fun is as I was, as she was showing me pictures and the grapevines, and Annie is a well-known artist where she does traditional basket weaving techniques, but they're very sculptural, very contemporary. And so when she brought the pieces in, and I saw these with the line quality of this, and then we had the line quality of this, and then these lovely shadows, and even the shadow of the straw on the pedestal too, so I just, it all kind of worked together to have the like the whirling dervish of the energetic marks, and then you've got the calm of these pieces, because as a weaver that you're sitting there and you're weaving things in and out, and it's a slow kind of quiet kind of experience. And then what she did with this piece is that it's called basket for your thoughts, and she wants you to write a thought and place it in the basket. So she's got a pen, pencil, and a little piece of paper, and as you can see in there, people have put their thoughts in there, and I'm not even sure, it would be fun to be with her as she pulled it out and read them, and I don't know if that would inspire another piece, but, for me, what was nice is that it was a traditional basket form, as far as the technique. But then again, when I came in, and I couldn't have picked a better correlation and color palette, color harmonies that work so well, of the blue and the natural and the cream color, and then they're echoed in Susan's pieces. So a lot of times it's almost like automatic writing for me. I pick these pieces and they come in, and they just, there's a vibe that was created that's kind of intuitive on my part, because I've been doing this for so long. But like I said, now the challenge is fitting these pieces into the spaces, because these are all new spaces for me. And whether it's the size of the wall, or where the lights are, or the pedestals, and just the physical plant of the space. And that to me is what's challenging. That's what's fun to me.
Beth, did you catch the, I'm using, Mary's term, the juice, the shadows juicy. Here, the juicy? I mean,
and again, it's the multiple lights is what's giving the different values of the shadows. But like I said, those are gifts. And when we put these, when Susan and I were designing the installation, last month, and we pulled it, put it against the wall, and then I knew the light was hitting, and it was just like, oh my God, it was so sweet. It was so perfect. And this whole experience has been so great, and such a, for me to get to know Susan as an artist. And she's so humble here. She just got her MFA in January.
Congratulations.
So congratulations.
Yeah.
But the fact that she took a chance on me as a guest curator, I've always wanted to curate a show here at 78th Street Studios because, like I said, I've been a part of the community for decades, and I kind of miss having my own gallery. So I've been kind of living vicariously through Susan here, and working with her has been a real joy. I'm one of her new biggest fans, and she's professional, and I appreciate what she's doing for the artists because she has the venue to host artists, whether they're emerging or whether they're established. And by me as a curator, the fact that she would let me bring in a collection that she would not necessarily have access to. It's all about letting people know what's going on in the community of artists, because we're very lucky. We have a very strong visual arts community. Yeah. Even though there's the east and west side, and yes, sometimes you have to have a passport to get over the river, but it's fun to go to the receptions on east side, west side, and see the people coming out because you're supporting the artists. And just saying, hey, we appreciate what you're doing. Maybe we can't afford to support you by purchasing, but we're supporting you by attending. And so, and sometimes it's just, if there's a bunch of people in a gallery space and people are walking through this building, they kind of come in like, oh, what's going on here? What's the buzz? What's happening? So it's been a great experience being here.
I'm going to step over and I'm going to grab that magic hat because we're going to draw the winner from
last
week's
week.
From last week's interview. After we draw that winner, then what we'll do is we'll just take a look at this last picture and then close on down. Beth has that hat. So if you were with us last week, we were down at Asian Town Center, right? We stepped in negative space. We were there at Chrysalis and at Tessa's place. And both Kara and Tessa offered a piece of artwork. And if you shared that interview last week, your name is in here. We're gonna draw a winner.
Okay.
And then
cool.
we'll connect with you guys. Make sure you get the artwork. But if you share this video and you share it twice, your name will be put in twice. But if you go ahead and choose the winner.
Okay. Oh my gosh, Victor Melorano. I know Victor.
You know Victor?
I know everybody, but
Victor, thank you.
Congratulations, Victor.
He was watching earlier too.
Oh.
I don't know if he still is.
Oh, how fun! That's great. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he's a great artist. He's he had I just juried the show at Bay Arts in Bay Village, and one of his pieces was accepted in the show. So it's funny that it would be Victor, because I've gotten to know him at the shows, because he shows out at Stella's and which is in downtown Willoughby. So for me, it's fun to get to know all these different artists. So I'm not surprised I didn't know who it was, but I do know Victor. So
you know Victor.
Yay.
Thank you guys for sharing. We encourage you to share. But the very last piece. So take us. If somebody were to walk in, they would have taken, kind of a clockwise
panoramic
of the view. But you separated these pieces and you ended up with this one. Was there, I mean.
It's a staging thing. It's a design thing because these pieces are on pedestals. I didn't want to end with heavy pedestals. And I just thought it would be a nice break to, and I knew that the shadows on the wall would kind of break up the space a little bit. But so basically, you're kind of flowing around and then you're seeing these pieces, and then this is like the final, you've got the whirling dervish kind of going into the point there. And, there's a feng shui to everything as far as, you want edges coming out this way or this way, I just had someone explain to me, I've never heard them say, when you design things, it looks like a dinosaur where it's like smaller, bigger, smaller. And I'm used to doing bookends, which creates a barrier to go this way. So it was interesting to have someone kind of like point out to me, which is something I do, intuitively, but I've never heard it like quantified that way, saying it was a dinosaur. I'm like, that makes sense. But like I said, for me, and because of the layout of the gallery and the having the wall here, I wanted a nice ending spot, kind of like a stop, so that when you're done and you can look and then you see the little piece of Grace's over there, it's just kind of, and then if you want, then you can kind of start all over again and kind of make the circle.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for joining us this Tuesday. Thank you, Susan, for opening up Understory for
yes,
us.
thank you.
Mary, you brought decades of experience to us. I know there's going to be a lot of folks who go, oh, I need to connect with you. You have a really wide Facebook presence.
Oh, yes,
Where else?
I do. Actually, a friend of mine kind of helped me come up with the name. On Facebook and on Instagram, it's Mary Sunshine Enterprises.
Okay.
And that's where I put all my calls to entry, because I share calls to entries, opportunities for artists. It's where I put all my shows that are happening. And then actually one last plug for Susan is she has a website and a weekly newsletter. Why don't you come explain?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, bring the card and she can explain a little bit about this. Every Monday morning at 1 a.m., if you sign up and subscribe, I'll let her explain.
Yeah, tell us.
This is Neo Art Opportunities, and it's a site that I created for artists, visual artists, that lists opportunities, calls for entry, funding opportunities like grants, art-related jobs, and spaces like studio spaces. And I found there was really a need for a consolidated place to have this for artists. So someone can go to the website and browse those opportunities, or they can go sign up for the email newsletter, which comes out automatically once per week on Sunday night, Monday morning.
As I said, 1 a.m.
Monday morning.
Like
comes out
clockwork.
automatically. I don't have to press any buttons. It just comes right out with as many opportunities as I can find or as people send me for visual artists. So,
and that's a valuable resource, because in the old days with the plain dealer, you'd have all the galleries listed on the back and opportunities, but to Michael Gill's credit in Can Journal, he's been doing this for years, and you can sign up for his newsletter, and that comes out every Tuesday and tells you all about the different events that are going on in the area and all that, and he built that up. I mean, remember when the first issue came out, and that was years ago. And he said, well, we hope that we're going to do it again. And now it's just expanded, and it's a lot of, artist content and gallerists. We pay to have things put in there, but in the back of the Can Journal, it's all the artists and galleries that support Can Journal are listed. So that's kind of like a who's who. If you're looking to if you want to scope out an area and say, hey, what is this area? What are they doing? How are they promoting the artists? What are the artists in this area doing? It gives you a comprehensive list of what's out there. And again, it's all about putting the information out there and letting people know there's so much to take advantage of. You just have to, maybe you might have to drive a little bit, but everyone's got GPS now, so you can figure out, where to go and how to get there. So.
Mary Urbas, you are a collaborator, you are a curator, you're a connector, and we appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us today. And guys, we'll catch you next week.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
See ya.